choose to run for youth governor?
I decided to run for youth governor for two paramount reasons. The first being that I absolutely love this program. I've been a part of it for the past 2.5 years, and because of YNG, those years have been the most magical and most memorable years of my life. And secondly, I'm here running for youth governor because I know that this year our program can make something good out of our current circumstances. We have the opportunity to pass incredible legislation, and we have the opportunity to make our program bigger and better for the years to come.
I decided to run for youth governor because I have a deep love for this program and a deep love for working with other delegates and talking to people about politics and YNG. And I have a new vision for what this program can look like. I have a lot of faith in how we can use this program to really engage in the world and challenge our world. And so what I want to do is I want to work with every one of you to make sure that the program embodies your vision. And I have my ideas and I want to listen to your ideas and really work together.
If you can pass one law today, what would it be and why?
If I could create any law I wanted, I would love to reform our criminal justice and prison systems to be specifically centered around restorative justice and rehabilitation. In this light, we can deflate the amount of people who are actually entered and incarcerated in prison. We can eliminate the need for death row. And lastly, we'll be able to promote a strong, healthy society in which incarcerated peoples can grow beyond their role in prison.
As much as I'd like to focus on something like worker co-ops, which is something I'm really passionate about, I think we have to recognize the urgency of climate change, and that if we wait, every year we wait, the harder it is going to be to save the world, right? So I would pass on a national level. If I got to pass one bill, I'd pass the Green New Deal. I'd combine all the different ideas of the Green New Deal into one law and get that through, because we have to address this on a really large scale, and we have to do it right away.
How would you establish connections with your team and peers to improve YNG?
If elected youth governor, there are a couple ways I love to establish connections between the delegates and program areas, etc. Firstly, I'm looking directly at communications and courts in order to get those programs really integrated into the YNG community so that we can have more communication between every program area. Secondly, I would also like YNG to be able to have communication with YNG programs across the country. And lastly, I would be sure to have a cabinet directly reflective of the makeup of YNG delegates.
I'm not a particularly competitive person, and so what I want to do is I want to work with every one of you and all the other delegates who are running for youth governor to really focus on improving the program. And I think I'm really embodying that by running on a plank with Siona. It's not something that's very common in this program, but I think that it's something that should be, where we recognize that we can work together and hit the ground running, ready to work with every single one of you. I want to come to your caucus meetings and your delegation meetings and work with you to make an impact on this program.
Who would you appoint as the next California senator if the choice was completely in your hands?
If I had the ability to appoint anyone of my choice to be California State Senator, I would likely choose Congresswoman Barbara Lee. Barbara Lee has really inspired me to become a more independent and strong-willed person and advocate for change. But more importantly, Barbara Lee is a direct, reflective representative of our California and YNG values. For instance, she supports criminal justice reform, climate change activism. She also supports women's rights and LGBTQ+ rights. So for these reasons, her advocacy for this change is vastly important and necessary today.
Barbara Lee has been a progressive leader in Congress for decades. She was one of the founder of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, and she was the only member of Congress to vote against the Iraq War. And so I think she'd be a really strong advocate for California, our issues, our values, and our needs. She'd be the only Black woman in the Senate if she was elected. And so I really hope that she runs in the next few years and can really represent California and our values.
What concrete steps would you take to make YNG more accessible?
Unfortunately, many individuals who'd love to join YNG simply can't because they don't have enough money to pay for it. YNG is extremely expensive. So why don't we just reduce the significant cost of YNG by $100 to a couple $100 in order to ease this financial burden? And this would be on top of the provided financial aid that YNG does offer certain delegates. As a result of this, we can even work towards perhaps getting YNG to be a free program for everybody. It should be. YNG is so special and people deserve to be a part of it.
I think that there's a lot we can do to make this program more accessible. To make it more accessible for people of color, I believe we should have anti-racist trainings for white delegates and create more safe spaces for delegates of color. To make the program more financially accessible, I think that we should institute some kind of pay what you can sliding scale system. But I think what's most important is that the program engages every one of you on how we can make the program accessible for you. Because I think that's fundamentally what accessibility has to be. How can the users of our program have access to it?
What is your biggest praise of the current California administration?
One of my biggest praises for the California administrative system was the response to the California wildfires we experienced earlier this year. Because most of our forests, over 53% to be exact, are actually owned by the federal government, it was so important that we receive financial aid directly from this governing body. Our governor, Gavin Newsom, was able to do just that, and as a result, we were able to take fast action in rejuvenating and recuperate not only our land, but also our people.
You know, I feel like I have a really deep connection with our governor, given that we both have dyslexia. And I'd also praise him in his constant effort to remind us that we are the traffic. But no, I think that Gavin Newsom genuinely wants to work with California to make things better. And so I think that we should hold him accountable and work with him to provide economic relief as things going forward. I know he's committed to it and he's already started to work on, giving these stimulus checks, and that's something we can keep working on.
What is your biggest critique of the current California administration?
My biggest critique of the California administrative system is the lack of response to our high taxes and high costs of living, which have evidently led to detrimental results. Firstly, these instances have contributed to the widespread homelessness crisis that we experience in California, and we have yet to fully eliminate. Secondly, it also contributes to the massive fleeing that we're experiencing with families who are leaving California for more cheaper and sustainable living elsewhere.
We have a governor who's been a leader on talking about taking COVID seriously while going out and having a party. And we have a governor who has talked about taking climate change seriously while not really taking it seriously, signing more oil and gas permits than ever before, and passing mostly symbolic actions. We really need to take this emergency and crisis seriously, and he's not doing that.
If you were in Gavin Newsom's shoes, what actions would you take right now to help combat COVID-19?
Aside from efforts to emphasize the themes of physical distancing, masking, and strict capacity measures, if I were in Gavin Newsom's shoes, here are a few things I would do. Firstly, I would still prioritize the elderly and high-risk victims to receive the vaccine firsthand. I would also allow individuals who are caretakers or strictly in contact with high-risk victims to also receive the vaccine. And lastly, I would make measures to specifically track vaccine availability as to have no erroneous or misleading information.
I would start by actually following my own rules and also ensuring that local governments are enforcing the rules set by the state of California. But to give you a concrete answer is hard because the rules, it feels like, are constantly changing. Every week there's a new decision. But what I would do is follow closely the advice of public health experts and professionals, because the truth is that none of us are experts on how to solve the pandemic. Gavin Newsom's not, and I'm not, and I don't want to pretend that I know best.
What kind of impact do you hope to make on the program?
I'm going to be honest, we're in a really precarious place this year. With everything being online, with a whole new program area agenda, everything's a little different. But the impact I want to make most importantly is to bring fun and magic back into the program. Right now, because it's so hard to be online, more than ever, we need to be in touch with each other and we need something fun. So for example, in my platform, I'm hoping to create a YNG prom, and I'm really hoping that we can reunite both Northern California and Southern California. Together, I think we can do this, and that's the impact I'm hoping to make.
I have a lot of personal ideas about how we could change the program, make it more radical or take on bigger systems. But I think what's most important and what every delegate wants is to have their voice heard. For groups of delegates to be able to have ideas and then see them embodied in the program. And that's really what I want to focus on. Working with the caucuses and other people running for office and every delegate, regardless of your position, to how you can feel like your voices and your ideas are really seen. And I think that's what's most important.
Why bother?
In order to answer the question, why bother, I have to ask another question. Why not bother? Right now, though we're all facing very different obstacles, our circumstances are predominantly the same. We have an opportunity at hand, an opportunity to prepare for the future, an opportunity to not only pass life-changing legislation in our state, but also look within our own program, make it more inclusive, more accessible. We have this chance. So let's bother, because why not?
I have a lot of answers that I think personally would be absolutely hilarious. But my serious answer would be that we have a unique opportunity and a privilege to advocate for issues we care about. And I think that we have an obligation that comes with that ability to really be advocates and to push for social change, because it's desperately needed. And there's people across the state and the country and the world who just don't have this ability to advocate for issues they care about.